In 1970, in a tank in Miami, a dolphin swam into a man's arms, looked him in the eye, and chose to stop breathing. Dolphins aren't like us. They don't breathe on automatic. Every single breath a dolphin takes, it has to decide to take, which means a dolphin can decide not to. This one decided not to. She held still in his arms, she didn't take the next breath, and she sank to the bottom of the tank. And the man holding her, the man who had captured her years earlier with his own hands, would spend the next 50 years of his life trying to undo what he'd done. Her name was Kathy. You've almost certainly seen her, even if you don't know it, because Kathy played Flipper. She was the smiling, friendly, heroic dolphin that an entire generation fell in love with on television. She's a huge reason we think of dolphins the way we do, as our happy, grinning friends from the sea. And here's the thing I need you to understand before we go any further. That smile, the one that made the whole world love them, is the exact reason we've been able to do something terrible to them for 60 years and barely notice. Because a dolphin can't stop smiling, even when it's dying. I'm going to do this episode a little differently. I'm going to tell it through one man, the man Kathy died in front of, because he is the only person alive who has been on both sides of this. He captured dolphins. He made them famous. And then he switched sides and spent his life breaking them out. Through him, you're going to meet a dolphin abandoned in a tank of green water and left to die alone. A dolphin in a laboratory who fell apart when the humans left. And a few who actually made it back to the open ocean. But we're going to build to the worst part. Because at the bottom of all of this, under the shows, the swim parks, the holiday photos, there's a hidden cove in Japan. And what happens there is paid for, without their knowing it, by people who think they love dolphins. Stay with me. This one connects in a way you won't see coming. This is Behind the Glass, Episode 8. The man's name is Ric O'Barry, and in the 1960s, he had what he thought was the best job in the world. He was the head dolphin trainer for Flipper, the biggest animal show on television, The Aquatic Lassie. His job was to take wild dolphins and turn them into TV stars. And he was, by his own account, possibly the highest paid animal trainer on Earth at the time. He lived in a house on the beach. He caught dolphins, he trained them, and he got rich doing it. Here's a detail that tells you everything about how little anyone understood back then. Flipper wasn't one dolphin. Flipper was five. 5 different female bottlenose dolphins: Kathy, Susie, Patty, Scotty, and Squirt. They used females for a specific reason. Females are less aggressive, and crucially, their skin was unmarked. Male dolphins are covered in rake marks and scars from fighting each other. The females looked prettier on camera. So America fell in love with a dolphin that was actually 5 dolphins, chosen because they photographed clean. And every one of them had been torn out of the wild. Now, to understand why what came next destroyed O'Barry, you have to understand what he didn't at the time. What a dolphin actually is. A dolphin is not a fish that does tricks. A bottlenose dolphin has a brain that, relative to its body, is one of the largest in the entire animal kingdom, second only to ours. And they use it in a way that, when scientists figured it out, genuinely stunned them. Every dolphin invents its own name. In the first few months of life, a baby dolphin develops a unique whistle, a signature whistle, that belongs only to it. And the other dolphins learn it. They call to each other by name across the open ocean. They'll answer to theirs. A mother and calf separated by miles of water will whistle each other's names until they're back together. So, sit with what that means for a moment. When you take a dolphin out of the wild, you are not removing an animal from a habitat. You are taking a named individual out of a family that is, at that moment, calling for it. And it is calling back, from the boat, from the truck, from the tank. O'Barry did that, by his own count, to a lot of dolphins, including Kathy. And for years, it didn't trouble him at all. The shows were a hit, the dolphins smiled, everyone was happy. Then the show got canceled, and the dolphins who'd been TV stars were retired, not back to the ocean, but into tanks at the Miami Seaquarium. The cameras left, the crowds left, and the dolphins just stayed in the water with nothing. That's when Kathy started to change. By 1970, Kathy was living in a small, isolated pen at the back of the Seaquarium. The fame was over. She wasn't performing. She was just being kept. And O'Barry, who still worked there, started to notice things he'd spent years training himself not to see. She was listless. She was floating. Dolphins in tanks do this thing. They hang motionless at the surface for hours, something they almost never do in the wild, where they're moving constantly. The trainers had a comforting word for it. They called it resting. O'Barry would later call it what he came to believe it was: depression. One day he got word that Kathy was sick. He went to her pen, and what happened next is the thing he has now told the world for 50 years, in the same words, because it never stopped haunting him. She swam into his arms. She looked him directly in the eye, and she stopped breathing. He felt her hold it. He waited for her to take the next breath, and she didn't. And then she sank. O'Barry has never accepted that it was an accident. Remember, a dolphin's breathing is conscious. Every breath is a choice. He believes Kathy made a choice, that she was, in his words, tired of being miserable, and she simply chose not to take the next breath. He blames himself completely. "I'm the guy who captured her," he's said. "She'd have been better off if we'd left her alone." You can debate whether a dolphin can truly intend that. Scientists do. But here's what isn't really up for debate. The man who knew her best, who'd spent years with her, who'd built his whole life on the idea that dolphins were fine in captivity, watched her die, and was so certain of what he'd seen that the very next day he tried to break into a facility to free another captive dolphin, and got arrested. On Earth Day 1970, the highest paid dolphin trainer in the world quit and became the most determined enemy the captivity industry has ever had. But quitting didn't answer the question that would drive the rest of his life. He'd seen one dolphin give up in a tank. He needed to know if it was just her, or if it was all of them, and the answer was waiting in the worst places he could find. Here's what O'Barry came to understand about the tank, and it's the part the smiling photos will never show you. I told you a dolphin invents its own name and calls across the ocean. That's because a dolphin's entire world is built out of sound. They don't experience the sea primarily through their eyes. They experience it through echolocation. A dolphin makes a rapid stream of clicks and reads the echoes that come back, and from those echoes, it builds a complete, detailed, three-dimensional picture of everything around it. It's so precise a dolphin can detect a fish buried under sand. It can tell the difference between two objects that look identical. It can, some research suggests, see inside another animal's body, sense a pregnancy, sense a heartbeat, through sound alone. Now, put that animal in a concrete tank. In the open ocean, sound travels out and never comes back the same way. The sea is vast and absorbs it. In a concrete box, every click the dolphin makes slams into a flat wall and bounces straight back. The animal's most powerful sense, the thing it uses to understand reality, turns the tank into a hall of screaming mirrors, its own voice fired back at it, off every wall, all day, with nowhere for the sound to go. Some experts believe this alone is enough to slowly drive a dolphin out of its mind. We built them a sense designed for an entire ocean, and then we put them in a room where it has nowhere to go but back into their own heads. And that's before you add the boredom, the isolation, the chemicals, the crowds, the performing. O'Barry started finding dolphins like this everywhere, and one of them, decades later, became the face of the whole thing. Her name was Honey. Honey was a young female bottlenose, captured, and hold on to where she was captured because it matters more than you know right now. Captured in Japan in 2005. She was sold to a marine park near Tokyo called Inubasaki, and for years she performed shows. Crowds, music, tricks, the smile. Then, in 2018, the park closed down. Not enough visitors, and the owners simply left. They walked away from the whole aquarium, and they left the animals inside it. They left 46 penguins. They left hundreds of fish and reptiles. And they left Honey, alone in her show tank, in water that slowly went green and filthy, with one employee coming by to throw her some food. Her last companion dolphin had already died the year before, so Honey spent her final years completely alone in a small dirty pool in an abandoned building, swimming the same slow circles over and over in the silence of a hall of her own echoes. When drone footage of her got out, this single dolphin floating alone in a dead aquarium, the world briefly lost its mind. Save Honey went everywhere. Sanctuaries offered to take her. Organizations begged the authorities to seize her, and nothing happened because the owners had vanished and no one would act. Honey died in that tank, alone, in March 2020, the world's loneliest dolphin. And here's what I want you to hold on to. Everyone who shared her story was heartbroken about how it ended. Almost nobody asked how it began. How did a dolphin end up in that tank in the first place? Where was she captured? We're gonna get to that, and it's going to reframe this entire episode. But first, the strangest case O'Barry's world ever produced, because it shows you just how far we were willing to go, and what it did to the animal. In the 1960s, around the same time Kathy was on television, there was a scientific experiment to try and teach a dolphin to understand human language. And at the center of it was a young male dolphin named Peter. Peter spent months in extremely close daily contact with one human researcher, constant interaction. And dolphins, remember, are intensely social. They bond. Peter bonded to that human with everything he had. By every account, the attachment was total. He'd become deeply, completely dependent on that one person's presence. And then the experiment lost its funding, and it ended, and Peter was shipped away. From the bright, social, attention-filled world he'd known to a different facility, a smaller tank, mostly dark, mostly alone, cut off entirely from the human he'd bonded to. He lasted a few weeks, and then Peter did exactly what Kathy did. He stopped taking his breaths, alone, in the dark tank. He simply stopped and sank. 2 dolphins, 2 tanks, the same ending. One had been a TV star, one had been a science experiment, and both, when the humans took away the only thing keeping them going, made the same impossible choice. You can argue the science of whether a dolphin can truly decide to die, but you cannot argue this. We keep in tanks a mind so social, so aware, so dependent on connection, that taking that connection away can switch it off entirely. That's not a fish in a bowl, that's something else. And on some level, we've always known it. We just put it behind glass and sold tickets because it never stopped smiling while we did. So, that's the cost. Kathy, Honey, Peter. Now let me show you the machine that's still feeding it, and the part where you accidentally come in. I told you to remember where Honey was captured, Japan. There's a small town there called Taiji, and Taiji is where this whole story has been heading. Every year, from September to March, the fishermen of Taiji go out in boats and find the wild dolphin pods migrating past. And they've worked out how to weaponize the one thing that matters most to a dolphin: sound. They lower steel poles into the water and they hammer on them, creating a wall of noise, a barrier of pure sound, that to an animal that navigates by hearing is like a wall of fire. The terrified dolphins flee from the noise, exactly where the boats want them to go, into a hidden cove, and then they net it shut. And here is the single most important fact in this entire episode, the one that connects everything. When those dolphins are trapped in the cove, a selection happens. Trainers, dolphin trainers from marine parks and swim programs, wade in among the fishermen, and they go through the trapped wild pod looking for the good ones, the young ones, the females, the unmarked pretty ones that will look good in a show. Exactly the same criteria that chose Kathy for Flipper 60 years ago. Those selected dolphins are pulled out alive and sold into the entertainment industry. The rest, the ones too old, too scarred, too male, not pretty enough, are killed. Now, here's why that matters to you. Because of the money. A dolphin killed for meat in Taiji is worth a few $100s. But a young dolphin pulled out alive and trained to do tricks, that one sells to a marine park or a swim with dolphins resort for up to $150,000. Do you see it? The killing isn't what funds Taiji, the captivity is. The live dolphins are where the real money is, which means every ticket sold to a dolphin show, every swim with dolphins holiday experience, every hotel that keeps a dolphin in its pool for guests to pet. Every one of those is, somewhere up the chain, the reason a boat goes out and hammers those poles. The tourist who pays to kiss a dolphin on holiday, who would be horrified by Taiji, who thinks they love dolphins. They are the economic engine that keeps the cove running. That's the trap of this whole thing. With the lions, the tourist at least chose to pet a wild predator. Here, the tourist genuinely believes they're doing something joyful and harmless. The dolphin is smiling, the water is blue, the kids are laughing, and none of them can see the thread running from that pool all the way back to a cove on the other side of the world. This was Honey's beginning. Taiji, 2005. She was one of the ones they selected. The cove is where her life in the tank started, and an abandoned pool of green water is where it ended. The whole pipeline, in one dolphin. So, let me bring you back to Ric O'Barry, the man Kathy died in front of. Because his story doesn't end in grief. It ends in the one thing this whole episode has been missing: proof that it can be undone. After Kathy, O'Barry didn't just protest. He learned how to do the hardest thing in this entire field. Take a dolphin that has lived its whole life in a tank and teach it how to be wild again. How to catch live fish, how to navigate, how to be a dolphin. And then, open the gate. He's done it now with over 25 dolphins. In Haiti, Colombia, Guatemala, Brazil, the Bahamas. He helped pull 2 dolphins named Luther and Buck out of a Navy facility and walk them back toward open water. And in 2019, he helped build the world's first permanent dolphin sanctuary in Bali. A real bay, real seawater, real tides, where dolphins who spent their lives performing get rehabilitated, and the ones who can make it are released back into the open ocean with trackers so we can watch them go home. There's footage from a sister project in South Korea of formerly captive dolphins being released and swimming straight back into a wild pod. Their family, calling their names and being answered. That's the proof. Honey never got it, Kathy never got it, Peter never got it. But it exists. It's possible. The gate can open. So, I'm not going to give you a list of things to do today. I'm going to give you one thing, one image to keep. The next time you're on holiday and there's a booth and it's offering you the chance to swim with a dolphin or kiss one or watch one leap through a hoop, and it will look magical and the dolphin will be smiling. I want you to remember that the smile isn't real, that it can't not smile, that somewhere behind that pool is a thread, and if you follow it far enough, it reaches a cove and a wall of sound and a family that got separated and never stopped calling. Don't buy the ticket, that's it. That's the whole thing. Because the entire machine, Taiji, the tanks, all of it, runs on people who didn't know. It cannot survive people who do, and now you do. There are always more lives behind the glass, and I'll keep bringing them into the light until the glass is empty, or until something finally changes. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.